All right. Ti-di-di-di-di. Ti-dum-ba-da-dum. Ti-di-dum-bum-di-di-da-dum. Ti-di-di-di. Ti-di-dum-ba-di-dum. All right. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We welcome you all. Art in Michigan. John is with us. Good morning in North Carolina. Terrence, all the way in Melbourne, Australia. Welcome. Ahuva, good morning to you in Seattle. And Joseph is joining us in sunny, cool New Jersey. Rabbi is in Morocco. Shalom to you. Good afternoon. Jan is in Mexico. Boker Tov. Jackie in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shalom. Zar is in Malaysia. Aleichem. Serach in New York. Welcome. Diane is in Arizona. Gary is joining us from Pennsylvania. Fran. Good morning to you. I think you're new. Welcome. Who else is joining us? Clem in Brisbane, Australia. Good evening. Davida, Liba. Speedy recovery for your father. You guys should be gesund and well. They're in New York joining us. Jane is in the Philippines. Welcome. We have Marvelous Monday with us. Daphne in South Carolina. Welcome. We have Chava in Boulder, Colorado with great vibes. In Georgia, we have Gillies. And we have Julia. Julia is in Pennsylvania joining us. In Florida, still enjoying the sun. Eugenia, welcome. Also in Florida, we have Leah with us. We have Mordechai. Good morning. From, not certain. Mark in Santa Rosa. Juno's also in Australia. Jelimo in Mexico, welcome. We have David, Shalom Deborah in Kitchener. Jeff is in Michigan, joining us. Susanna in Miami. Cindy is also in Florida. Tony's in Costa Rica. All these warm places. All right, here we have to come on to be warm in the heart. It's actually getting a little cold here in Montreal, but we're all doing well. We have on Instagram, we have Adam with us. Okay, Akoy in Peru. Alice is in Baltimore. Marilyn is in, you have to remind me, in Texas. Thank you. Today is your sight of your late husband, Baruch Abraham ben Binyamin HaKoyin. Okay. Today's teachings in his honor. Also for the Refuah Shlema Yeshaya ben Chaya. And Rachel's with us, South Carolina. Very good. We have Batya and Vilma, Liana and Luz are joining us here on Clubhouse. Okay. We continue chapter 12 with the Beinoni, the intermediate individual, person who is not wicked and not righteous. Although this individual doesn't allow for a moment to have any of the animal soul having a self-expression in any of the garments of the soul, which garments are the self-expression, metaphor for the self-expression of the soul, in thought, speech, and action. Not in one's actions, not even in speech, saying something that you shouldn't say, and not even in thought, a cogitated, willful thought. Yet this person is not deemed tzaddik at all. Even though on the surface, when you look at this person, their behavior is perfect. And you look at a tzaddik, a righteous person, their behavior is also perfect. Right? Behavior is, again, your actions, your words, your speech, and your willful thoughts, your cogitated, your thoughts. Perfectly perfect. You couldn't tell the difference. So you might think that this Beinoni is righteous. But no. Why? Because the only place where there's a difference, where that person is impeccable, is in the garments of self-expression. But the divine soul itself is full of, not the divine soul, the divine self itself is only eliminated in those areas of self-expression. But the core of the soul is not dominated by the godly soul. The animal soul is that derives from klipa, has its it still exists, and it's still in the left ventricle of the heart and remains there undisturbed. And therefore, after prayer, we said by the Beinoni, when the Beinoni prays, it's as if, everything has been removed, all negativity. But after prayer, it comes back. It's revealed in his heart desires of the heart that are regular of the animal soul for pleasure, comfort, lust, whatever it is. All right. Again, during prayer, it's not there, so to speak. More than that we'll see later. But now, after prayer, it comes back. So there's no palpable, powerful feeling of an attachment to God after prayer as it was during prayer. Now what's left is, so to speak, the inherent love, something we'll speak more about in chapters 18 and 19, what we call the Ava Mesuteres, the hidden love, which we'll again learn more about that. And therefore it's possible that in the person's heart of the Beinoni, that a negativity is still there, and that in the heart there's still craving for physical things, material desires, and not just for permitted things, but even possibly for prohibited things. And it could enter into the mind of the Beinoni. Now, he won't actually transgress, right? Why won't he transgress? Not even in thought, when the thought comes in. Because that thought is coming from klipa. And doesn't want that thought at all. But thoughts that are negative, like lustful thoughts, or, lack of concentration in prayer, or slanderous gossip, are things that our sages say that unless you're righteous, that it's not possible that those thoughts will not come to mind on a daily basis. So for the Beinoni, it comes to mind, right? It does come to mind. So since it comes to mind, it means he's not righteous. Now we won't see that in a person. We won't know that in a person because we can't read their minds. But it will come to mind and they have to deal with it. And actually interesting, the Rebbe says, that which comes to mind in your thoughts in a certain way is is a greater crime than that which you speak or do. So if you have a negative thought, whatever that thought is, in a certain way it's worse than expressing it in words vis-a-vis the person themselves. Not vis-a-vis the effect on another. The effect on another, of course, when you say something nasty to another, so that effect is obviously more impacting the individual than if you just thought it to yourself, that nasty thing. That's for sure. However, vis-a-vis the person, saying something nasty and thinking it is worse. Why? How does that make sense? It's because speech is something that comes out of you and may not be a real reflection of you. Like you can say to someone, I love you, and you don't mean it. You can say to someone, I hate you, and you don't mean that either. Right? You just said it. But when you think it, and especially if it's something you think and think and think, then first of all, it's an expression of you to yourself, of where you're really at. As the Baal Shem Tov says, in the thoughts of the person, that's where the person is found. And there's a famous story of after prayers once, the Baal Shem Tov went over to one of the congregants and said, Shalom Aleichem, welcome back home. He said, Rabbi, I came back last week. I didn't come back from my trip. Came back last week already. He says, I know that you came physically back last week, but today during your prayers, you were back in your trip, in your business trip. During prayers, that's where your mind was. Now you came back from there, so welcome back. So where's a person really at? What they're thinking, right? What their thoughts are. That's where really they're at. So in that sense, the negative thoughts that a person has is really a greater indication of where they're at. That negative thought that is expressed verbally has a greater effect on the person that you say it to rather than the thought. But the person themselves, the negative thought has a deeper, more profound negative effect upon them than what they say when it's then saying those words. Now, of course, when you say something, you're also thinking it, right? Or right before saying it, you thought it, right? So usually when we speak something, we also have it in mind, of course, beforehand. Not necessarily. Sometimes it could just be it was there, part of us, so we had it in some level of thought, but it could have been a minimal thought. But of course, it was there. So the point that the Alter Rebbe wants to bring out over here is that the Beinoni will struggle with his thoughts, or her thoughts, negative ones that will come. As our sages say, unless someone's righteous, there are 3 sins that is difficult to avoid, that a person shouldn't transgress them on a daily basis. The lack of concentration in prayer. Secondly, firstly, actually, sinful thoughts, right, of lust and so on, that come to mind. And slanderous gossip. That is also something that it's difficult for an individual. The point is that these things come to mind by the Beinoni, right? But he doesn't allow, or she doesn't allow it to be entertained. The feeling's there, but it's not allowed to be entertained by the Beinoni. The thought comes, and the thought, tomorrow we're going to deal more about that, how that's done, how we accomplish that. Powerful idea. Okay. Let us. We had a wonderful TRC last night. Some new people joined us. Welcome. If you can post some feedback here and everywhere, or personally and also here, so people can be inspired. Our next TRC is going to be Thursday at 4:30. Chava, thank you. Struggling with my thoughts can feel like war sometimes. So, just to bring up another point over here, the Alter Rebbe doesn't mention this, but I think something valuable. It's we very naturally live on autopilot, right? We very naturally live in autopilot because we have patterns. We already have patterns set on how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive others, and how we perceive the world at large. Based on that perception, that feeds our emotional disposition, right? And that's all, it's there already, what we're accustomed to. And therefore, quite often, whatever thought comes to mind, that's what I think. Because since it came to mind, because it was in my heart, something that was, either loving or hating, strong feelings towards, so therefore I think it. I don't have feelings towards something, I'm not going to think about it, right? So naturally we think what we think, and right, maybe we hold back sometimes on what we say. I'm talking about here in thought more than speech or action, because there probably we have a little more freedom of choice. I want to suggest that most of us are not so free in our minds. We don't struggle. Freedom means that you struggle and you choose, your higher self than your lower self, the better thought than the worse thought, or the negative thought, the good thought rather than the negative thought. How many of us struggle with that in thought? Sometimes we might struggle in speech. I'm not going to say that negative thing because I don't want to hurt her feelings. Okay, that's good. At least there's a struggle there, and you hold back from saying something that might be hurtful or nasty. I'm talking about in thought, though. How many times do we have a negative thought and hey, that's not a healthy thought. Got to replace that with a good and healthy, positive thought. So I suggest that most of us have lost freedom of choice there because we're living on autopilot. And when we have a negative thought, we kind of allow it to fester we allow it to take us over. Yeah. And that's what we're learning over here. Hopefully that in a way that we don't allow that to happen. And that's what the Beinoni. That's where the real struggle is. And when you're struggling with that, that means you're really you're developing your free choice in your thoughts to free yourself of that negativity ultimately. Joseph, what techniques would recommend to minimize evil thoughts? So we're going to deal more about that. Excellent question. Excellent. TRC, we really deal with it. We really deal with this. All the real growth takes place every day by learning, every day, day in, day out, and I'm sure you all see that over a time period. And accelerated growth is in our community, because then we tackle things. Right? How do we deal with negative thoughts that just pop into our heads? Okay. Again, we will deal with it more in coming up classes. And again, for accelerated, join us at the TRC. Jeff, attended TRC, very impactful, wonderful space to connect with others. Thank you, and looking forward for future TRC sessions. Not really a class. I don't call it a class. You could if you want. It's all right.
Rabbi?
Yes, just for a moment. Just give me a moment while I just finish off. So I lose the feed over here. Powerful idea of talking about today. I always thought that Beinoni was where we all are already. Okay. That's something that we need to strive for. Yes. So I don't know. We're not back and forth between a Beinoni and a Rasha, because the back and forth means that not really a Beinoni, as we learned yesterday. In the lifetime of the Beinoni, he won't have these negative thoughts cogitated, let alone any negative words or actions. Okay. Okay, Jane, 1 second. Vilma, yes, and we have Luz and Alan.
So Luz wrote in the chat that she doesn't know how to get to the TRC room.
You have to sign up. Yeah, you sign up by going to TanyaRabbi.com/TRC, and you'll find out over there. Okay. Thank you.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Forgive me, Rabbi. I'm going to add a little bit to the information that you put out about the TRC. Thank you for answering. Thank you for addressing my question. Was it B? Yes, thank you. Yesterday, I think it was, or maybe, yesterday, in Facebook, somebody posted a little paragraph where it explains that the Rambam classes, and I think the 2 sessions after 6, I can't remember what they're named.
Torah studies at 6:30, right? On Sundays at 6:30.
They're in a Zoom class.
Yes.
Now, the community room, I imagine, because I signed up, but I signed up right before Shabbat, so nobody has seen my email or my sign up.
So you know what? The secretary just came in.
Probably send me a link.
Yes, we'll send you a link. If so, secretary's here now. I'll have her look for it. I'm. You went and you signed up. Okay. You know what? You private message me so I have your information just in case there's something happened. Okay.
Private message you here?
No, not here.
On Facebook.
On Facebook, private message. Yes. Okay.
I can do Facebook or I can do the website.
Or the website. Yeah, from the website.
Okay.
Okay. So that way,
Okay.
that we can contact you just in case because I just in case there was some problem. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. Just
You're
to let
welcome.
everybody know a better idea of how they're going to get to the process. There is a different room for TRC, and you get access to that after you signed up.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Alan, give me one moment. Is it right to think, asks Jane, that we have to struggle in itself is also good? Yes, the struggle itself is good. Right? The fact that, we have in our minds something negative and we struggle with that. And sometimes maybe if we lose, but if we struggled, that itself is the beginning. The more we end up struggling with in ourselves, the more, first of all, we're going to be free, and the less we'll struggle with those outside of us. Because ultimately the struggle is only from within. It's not from without. That's the ultimate. Oh, we lost Alan. Okay. We'll catch him another time. Susanna. We can have positive thoughts about negative situations or abuse, like looking for options to solve it or help. So it is different a negative thought or a negative or difficult situation, for example, and as an anti-Semitic context. Right. In other words, you can be in a difficult position, you can be in some negative, situation, and yet you can have positive thoughts on how to deal with it, right? Yes, absolutely correct. Thank you, Sana, who just joined us for TRC. Okay. I don't see anything else.
I do have a question, Rabbi.
Go ahead. Oh.
I apologize for the barking dog on my side. Rabbi.
Yes.
There is this thought I have. We can't control most of our thoughts. I mean, our thoughts much more when we hang out in an environment like this, in your Ramban classes, and I imagine in your TRC community.
Right.
But there's also other Jews that have other rooms, and those rooms are secular, completely secular, and things are said, but I don't want to stay away from them because they're Jews. And I feel that if I isolate, I feel I would isolate myself if I only hang out. Does it make sense what I'm saying, Rabbi?
Yeah, I need to know the context, and this is not the place for that kind of discussion. It's just, it's a very personalized question. That this context won't deal with it appropriately. Okay, so I don't know how to answer that. Right, we can deal with it another time.
I will take advantage of one session, Rabbi.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Rachel, if a person offends a friend accidentally by lack of discretion, how can that person make tikkun? By asking forgiveness. You just ask from that person for, I'm sorry I hurt you. It was inadvertent. I didn't really mean to, but understand that I did, and you own it and ask for forgiveness from that person. Okay. More to come, folks. A reminder, TRC Thursday, 4:30. Okay. And Rambam coming up right now. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing, wonderful day. And a good tavach.